me! Please help me! They're attacking me!
911, what's your emergency?
There's dogs attacking someone! On Maple Drive! It's JoAnn! They're killing her!
Stay on the line, ma'am. Can you describe the dogs?
Pit bulls. 2 of them. Oh, God, there's so much blood.
This wasn't a scene from a horror movie. This was the horrifying reality that unfolded on October 14, 2024, in a seemingly peaceful Ohio neighborhood. This was the day 73-year-old JoAnn Echelbarger, a beloved grandmother and avid gardener, met a brutal, unthinkable end in her own backyard. Her attackers weren't some wild beast from a distant jungle. They were her neighbor's beloved pit bulls, animals that, on the surface, were just part of the suburban landscape. But what transpired that afternoon would expose a dark underbelly of negligence, ignored warnings, and a chilling revelation that would shock the nation. The dogs had cocaine in their systems. Welcome to the Animal Reckoning channel, where we uncover the most shocking animal encounters and the human stories behind them. If you believe in exposing the truth and understanding the dangers lurking in plain sight, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. This isn't just a story about a dog attack. It's a chilling narrative of how seemingly domestic animals can become instruments of pure terror and how a community's pleas for safety went tragically unheeded. JoAnn Echelbarger was, by all accounts, the epitome of a gentle, kind soul. At 73, with soft, grandmotherly eyes and a warm smile that could instantly put anyone at ease, she embodied the quiet strength of her generation. Her life revolved around simple, profound joys, her family, her close-knit community, and above all, her garden. Every spring, her backyard transformed into a vibrant tapestry of color and life, a testament to her meticulous care and her deep connection to the earth. She knew the Latin names of every flower, could nurse a wilting rose back to health with a touch, and found profound peace amidst the buzzing of bees and the rustling of leaves. Her husband, Robert, 75, was her lifelong companion. Their love story spanned over 5 decades, a quiet testament to enduring partnership. But Robert's health had been declining. Stricken with advanced dementia and reliant on a wheelchair, he now spent his days inside, a silent witness to the world outside his window. JoAnn was his primary caregiver, a role she embraced with unwavering devotion. Their home, a modest single-story house with a perfectly manicured lawn, was their sanctuary. JoAnn found solace in her daily routine, waking early, preparing Robert's breakfast, ensuring he was comfortable, and then her favorite part, stepping out into her garden. It was her escape, her therapy, a place where she could lose herself in the rhythm of nature. But that sanctuary bordered a property that held a growing, unspoken threat. Their neighbors, the Millers, owned 2 pit bulls. From the outside, they might have seemed like typical family pets, but to JoAnn and many others in the neighborhood, they were a source of growing anxiety. This wasn't some isolated incident. This was a tragedy simmering for months, fueled by ignored complaints and a terrifying sense of helplessness. The 2 pit bulls were large, muscular, and frequently seen roaming the Millers' backyard, often unsupervised. Neighbors had witnessed their aggressive behavior firsthand, growling at passers-by, lunging at the fence with bared teeth, an incessant guttural barking that echoed through the otherwise quiet streets. These weren't playful barks. They were territorial, menacing. Local animal control records later revealed a disturbing pattern. Over the past year alone, there had been at least 3 documented complaints about the Millers' dogs. One incident involved the dogs escaping their yard and chasing a jogger down the street, forcing them to jump over a fence to escape. Another time, they had cornered a smaller dog being walked on a leash, prompting a frantic intervention by its owner. They were always getting out, recalled Sarah Jenkins, a neighbor who lived 2 houses down. You'd see them just loose, sniffing around, and they just had this look in their eyes, like they were always on edge. It wasn't normal. JoAnn herself had expressed concerns to her family and friends. She loved animals, but she understood the inherent power of certain breeds, especially when poorly managed. She'd mentioned to her daughter, Mary Beth, that she felt uneasy gardening near the fence line, often keeping an eye on the neighbor's yard, a subtle shift in her peaceful routine. Mom said they just had a mean streak, Mary Beth later recounted in a tearful interview. She tried to be understanding, but she was worried, especially for Robert. God forbid they ever got into our yard. The Homeowners Association had also received complaints multiple times. Internal memos, later uncovered during the lawsuit, showed a clear history of warnings issued to the Millers regarding their dog's behavior and the inadequate fencing. One such memo, dated 3 months prior to the attack, explicitly stated, "Further incidents of aggressive behavior or escape by your animals will result in severe penalties, including potential removal of the animals from the property." Yet despite these warnings, nothing substantial changed. The Millers remained dismissive, often responding with variations of, "They're just playing," or "They wouldn't hurt a fly." The community, frustrated and fearful, felt their concerns were falling on deaf ears. A terrifying sense of a ticking time bomb counting down in their own backyard. Then came October 14, 2024. A perfectly ordinary autumn afternoon. The leaves were turning vibrant shades of red and gold, and a gentle breeze rustled through the trees. JoAnn Echelbarger, dressed in her gardening clothes, a wide-brimmed hat protecting her from the mild sun, was enjoying her sanctuary. She was kneeling by a patch of late-blooming marigolds, carefully pruning away dead leaves, her hands caked with rich, dark soil. Robert was inside, likely watching his favorite nature documentary. Around 2:30 p.m., the horrifying chain of events began. The Millers' pit bulls somehow had gotten out again. It's still unclear if it was a gate left ajar, a hole dug under the fence, or a section of weakened wood that finally gave way. What is known is that the dogs, unhindered, burst into JoAnn's yard. There was no warning, no growl that she could have heard, no bark to alert her. Just the sudden, terrifying impact. One dog, then the other, launched themselves at the frail 73-year-old. JoAnn's initial scream was one of shock, quickly morphing into agonizing terror. She fell backward, landing amidst her precious marigolds, her gardening tools scattering around her. The dogs were relentless. Their powerful jaws clamped down, tearing at her limbs, her torso. She thrashed, trying desperately to push them away, to shield herself, but the force was overwhelming. Her cries for help were immediate, desperate. "Help! Somebody, please help me!" Inside the house, Robert in his wheelchair heard the commotion. His dementia-clouded mind struggled to process the frantic sounds. But the distress in JoAnn's voice was unmistakable. He tried to move, to get to her, but his physical limitations held him captive. A devastating irony that would haunt their family for years to come. He could only watch, helpless, from the window, the horrifying tableau playing out just feet away. Neighbors, drawn by the horrific screams, began to emerge. Clara Hansen, who lived directly across the street, was the first to see. She was bringing in her mail when she heard the first scream. She looked up, then froze. She saw JoAnn on the ground, two blurred, powerful shapes tearing at her. "Oh my God!" Clara shrieked, fumbling for her phone, her hands shaking so violently she almost dropped it. "They're eating her! The dogs are eating her!" Her 911 call was a strangled mix of sobs and urgent pleas, her voice cracking under the weight of what she was witnessing. "There's blood everywhere! Please, someone get here! They won't stop!" Another neighbor, Michael Chen, heard the commotion from his garage. He ran out, grabbing a shovel, but stopped dead at the sight. The dogs were in a frenzy, completely consumed by the attack. He knew interfering without proper protection could mean his own death. He quickly retreated to call 911, urging them to send armed officers. The attack, though it felt like an eternity, likely lasted only a few brutal minutes. By the time the first sirens wailed in the distance, JoAnn's screams had faded to desperate, gurgling whimpers, then to horrifying silence. The first police cruisers arrived at 2:41 p.m., just 8 minutes after Clara Hansen's frantic 911 call. But those 8 minutes had been a lifetime for JoAnn Echelbarger. The scene that greeted the officers was one of unspeakable horror. The usually pristine backyard was a landscape of overturned flower pots, trampled plants, and streaks of crimson staining the manicured lawn. JoAnn's body lay motionless amidst the wreckage, brutally mauled beyond recognition. The two pit bulls were still there, panting, their muzzles smeared with blood, their eyes glazed with a terrifying primal intensity. One officer, a veteran of 2 decades, later described it as the most gruesome scene he had ever encountered. Body cam footage, later released to the public as part of the legal proceedings, captured the officers' hushed, shaken voices. "Subject as unresponsive, dog still active," one officer stated, his voice tight with controlled horror. "Secure the perimeter. We need animal control, but these animals are still a threat." The officers, prioritizing the safety of the public and their own lives, were faced with an immediate, grave decision. The dogs were highly agitated, showing no signs of backing down. They knew they couldn't wait for animal control to arrive with tranquilizer darts. The risk of the dogs escaping or attacking someone else was too high. "Contain and neutralize," a commanding voice ordered over the radio. 3 shots rang out in quick succession, echoing through the stunned neighborhood. The 2 pit bulls collapsed instantly, their frenzied movements stilled forever. The air, thick with the stench of blood and fear, slowly began to clear. Paramedics rushed into the scene, but it was a grim formality. JoAnn Echelbarger was pronounced dead on arrival. The extent of her injuries was so severe, so grotesque, that even seasoned medical personnel were left visibly shaken. Deep lacerations, crush injuries, and widespread tissue loss indicated a prolonged, brutal attack. Her hands, typically gentle and nurturing, showed defensive wounds, a testament to her desperate final struggle. News of the attack spread like wildfire, ripping through the quiet community and then across national news channels. Headlines screamed, "Grandmother mauled to death by pit bulls." Exotic pet dangers hit home. Community demands answers. Local news crews descended on Maple Drive, their cameras capturing the hushed, grieving faces of neighbors and the grim police tape surrounding the Echelbarger home. But the story took an even darker, more shocking turn with the release of the toxicology reports. Tests performed on the euthanized dogs revealed an unbelievable truth. Both pit bulls had cocaine in their systems at the time of the attack. The revelation sent shockwaves of disbelief and outrage across the country. How could this be? Were the dogs intentionally given drugs? Was this a factor in their extreme aggression? The dogs' owners, the Millers, were immediately the focus of intense scrutiny. Public outrage mounted. Protests erupted outside their home with signs reading, "Justice for JoAnn" and "Drug-fueled dogs are a menace." Neighbors who had previously been too scared to speak out now came forward, sharing stories of the dogs' erratic behavior, the constant fear they lived with, and the numerous ignored complaints. Within weeks, the Millers were arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter. The prosecution argued that their gross negligence, including their failure to adequately contain the aggressive dogs and the shocking discovery of drug use, directly led to JoAnn's death. The trial was highly publicized, bringing to light the full extent of the prior warnings and the Millers' dismissive attitude. The defense attempted to argue that the cocaine presence was incidental or the result of accidental ingestion, but the jury was unmoved. In a landmark verdict, the Millers were convicted of involuntary manslaughter, a rare outcome for a dog attack case. They were sentenced to significant prison time, sending a clear message about owner responsibility. Beyond the criminal proceedings, JoAnn's family, still reeling from their devastating loss and the unimaginable circumstances of her death, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Millers and, controversially, against the Homeowners Association. The lawsuit argued that the HOA, despite receiving repeated complaints and issuing warnings, failed to take adequate action to ensure the safety of its residents. This legal battle further intensified the public debate, raising critical questions about collective responsibility in maintaining community safety. The autopsy report on JoAnn Echelbarger painted a grim picture. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the lead medical examiner, described the injuries as catastrophic. The victim sustained multiple deep lacerations, puncture wounds, and crushing injuries consistent with a powerful dog attack, Dr. Reed stated in her official report. The trauma was widespread, affecting the limbs, torso, and head. There was significant blood loss, The cause of death was attributed to exsanguination due to severe trauma compounded by blunt force injuries. The report detailed fractured bones, dislocated joints, and extensive muscle and tissue damage, indicating a prolonged and ferocious assault. The sheer brutality of the attack left no doubt about the immense power of the animals involved. In the wake of the tragedy, calls for stricter pit bull ownership laws and exotic pet regulations intensified across the state and nationwide. Animal rights organizations, normally advocates for all breeds, found themselves in a difficult position, acknowledging the inherent power of certain dogs while trying to combat breed-specific bans. However, the Echelbarger case, with its chilling drug component, added a new layer of complexity to the debate, pushing the conversation beyond typical behavioral issues to questions of intentional neglect and reckless endangerment. For Robert Echelbarger, the aftermath was a silent, profound tragedy. His dementia made it difficult for him to fully grasp the horror of what had happened. Yet the absence of JoAnn, his constant caregiver and loving wife, was an undeniable, aching void. He would often ask for her, his eyes searching the empty rooms, a poignant reminder of the life brutally snatched away. The Echelbarger home, once a beacon of peace and vibrant life, stood as a stark monument to a love lost and a warning unheeded. The marigolds, once JoAnn's pride, withered and died, their vibrant color fading to a somber brown, mirroring the grief that settled over the neighborhood. The story of JoAnn Echelbarger serves as a chilling, blood-stained lesson. It's a stark reminder that love alone cannot erase nature, especially when nature is powerful, poorly managed, and, in this unprecedented case, chemically altered. It highlights the critical importance of responsible pet ownership, the urgent need for authorities to act on reported concerns, and the devastating consequences when warnings are ignored. The beautiful garden where JoAnn once found solace now stands as a harrowing symbol of a preventable tragedy. The memory of her final, desperate screams continues to echo, a haunting testament to a mistake that cost a beloved grandmother her life. Wild animals, even those raised in homes, retain their instincts. And when those instincts are compounded by negligence and reckless disregard, the line between pet and predator can blur with deadly consequences. JoAnn Echelbarger's story is not just a local tragedy, it's a nationwide wake-up call. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about responsibility, accountability, and the very real dangers that can lurk next door. Her memory demands that we listen to the warnings, take action when necessary, and ensure that no other family endures such a horrifying, preventable loss. If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes to the dangers of unregulated or irresponsible pet ownership, please consider sharing this video. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories that expose the harsh truths behind animal encounters, and hit the like button. If you believe that every life, human and animal, deserves protection and respect, thank you for watching.